Good afternoon. Welcome to our Midday Mull for Monday, the 6th of July. I began reading Jeremiah and I was struck by the call of the prophet. We told the words of Jeremiah, son of Hilkiah, one of the priests at Anathoth in the territory of Benjamin. So, coming from a priestly family close to the cultic life of the church, involved in worship, and God calls him as a prophet. We told in verse 4, the word of the Lord came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. And I read that and I thought, what encouraging words for God to say that I knew you. From before you even began to exist, I've had this plan and I've had you as part of it. And that is what God could say to each one of us. He could say to you, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. He says that to me. He says that to each one of us. Before you were born, I set you apart. Each one of us has been called by God. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Well, we're not all appointed as prophet, but God does appoint each of us to be part of his family and to minister to the family and bring his light to the world. So we're all called by God in a similar way to Jeremiah. But Jeremiah was a little bit wary, and he says, sovereign Lord, I do not know how to speak. I'm only a child. I have an excuse. I have a good excuse why I can't do this. And so often when God calls us to do things, we have very good excuses. But God will have none of it. And he says to Jeremiah, but the Lord said to me, do not say I'm only a child. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. And God says to us, don't worry about people, don't worry about the threats and you're feeling intimidated or you're feeling not able, because I am with you. Go, do not be afraid, for I am with you. And then I was struck by that last little phrase, and will rescue you, declares the Lord. And I suddenly thought, actually, God, I'd rather not end up in a position where I need to be rescued. If you don't mind, just lead me in ways which don't involve rescue. But God doesn't do that. And Jeremiah indeed needed rescuing. He ended up being arrested. He is locked up in a prison. He ended up being thrown in a cistern. But God was with him and saw to him and got him out of those situations and enabled him to keep on. And any notion that our call by God, and no matter how God is using us, to think that we're not going to have difficulties, it just flies in the face of everything I read in Scripture. God never promises us an easy life. He promises us a good life, a fulfilling life, a blessed life. But that's not the way the world sees it. And so we've really got to pray, God, let us see our lives and our world through your eyes, that we will trust you, that we will follow you, and we will know your presence no matter what. So I pray that that'll be true for you. I pray actually that you're not in a place that needs rescuing, but if you need rescuing, God is there. But we do need to recognize that God's promise doesn't mean we're not going to end up in difficult situations. But he does promise he will be with us in those situations. He will see us through and get us to the other side. So if things are going well, rejoice in the moment. If you're struggling, recognize God is still there and still available and still helping you. That is our God. Hold on to him and be blessed.